Call this meeting to order with a general reminder to silence your electronic devices. All right, and also this meeting will be video and audio recorded today. Mrs. Williams, can I get a roll call?
Yes, Madam Chair. Mr. Paul Alexander. Here. Ms. Stacy Fleming. Here. Mr. Carlos Vargas.
Here.
Ms. Rachel Kirkland.
Here.
And Madam Chair, Ms. Shante Jones will not be attending tonight.
Very good. All right. Mrs. Fleming, you want to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Do we have any additions or corrections to the agenda?
No.
No.
Seeing none, can I get a motion for approval of the agenda?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? Motion carries. All right, moving on to the consent agenda. I know everyone's had a chance to review that. Can I get a motion on the consent agenda?
Move to approve consent agenda.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? Motion carries. All right, moving on to Superintendent Spotlight. Mrs. Grasser.
I'd like to take a minute and just introduce Dr. Grosser. Really proud of Ms. Grosser did defend her dissertation on Monday the 18th, so we're glad that she had that accomplishment and super proud of her. So Dr. Grosser.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the board. The first step in our 3 spotlights tonight is our Nourishing Ninjas program. This program, led by Mackenzie Rupert, a counselor at Manassas Park Elementary School, works to provide food for students in need every Friday. These take-home bags provide our students with meals to last over the weekend. But of course, a project of this size takes a lot of community and school support and partnership. Sources of funding for the program include the Bell Foundation, wish lists from Amazon, Walmart, and Target, and donations from local organizations such as the Manassas Church of Christ and Redeeming Grace Church in Fairfax. Anyone is welcome to shop on the wish list to have items donated directly back to the school. Once the items are donated, they then have to be packed in ready-to-go bags. On selected dates throughout the school year, staff members and volunteers gather to help pack the bags. Just last month, Dr. Saunders and I had the opportunity to attend and participate in a packing party. Thousands of items were packed into close to 1,000 separate take-home bags. From donation to distribution, it truly takes a village to provide weekend meals for our students in need. So tonight, we spotlight our Nourishing Ninjas program and everyone who has worked to support the program from donation to packing to distribution. We do not have anyone from Nourishing Ninjas that could join us tonight, so I do have a few pictures for you here. And if there are any comments or questions or feedback at the conclusion of the spotlight, I'll be sure to pass those on to Ms. Rupert at Manassas Park Elementary School. Okay, next up in our spotlight, MPCS was recently awarded a grant in the amount of $12,000 from the No Kid Hungry organization to support our goal of feeding our families in need, both once a month through our family market, and now, with this grant, open a food pantry for families to access food during other times of need. We have space and refrigeration to store all types of food items. This grant money will go towards shelving units as well as perishable and non-perishable foods that can be given to the community during their time of need. The pantry will be open on select dates with staff support. Staff support will also be available to deliver food to those families who do not have transportation. Throughout the year, MPCS will continue to look for donors to support this food pantry. No Kid Hungry has helped schools and community groups feed kids throughout the pandemic. So far, they've spent more than $100 million in grant funding to over 2,500 schools and organizations across all 50 states to help children and their families get more of the food they need. Congratulations to the team that made this grant happen for our families. And joining us tonight on behalf of the group that wrote this grant is Araceli Contreras. Yay. So if you'd like to come on up to the front.
Not really, but yeah.
like no? She wanted me, right here in the middle, she wanted me to be sure to mention that it wasn't just her alone that worked on this grant, that it was a team, and she is here representing them. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Great. Thank you. And finally, for our spotlight tonight, this past month we celebrated Assistant Principals Appreciation Week. Though this happened a few weeks ago, we couldn't miss this opportunity to highlight our tremendously talented and dedicated assistant principals. I know that whenever I visit one of our school buildings, I always see these assistant principals as warm and welcoming presence in our hallways, working with our students. A few things about our assistant principals. They work cooperatively to direct, develop, and inspire all members of the school staff and student body. Our assistant principals serve as educational leaders responsible for managing the policies, regulations, and procedures necessary to ensure a safe and effective learning environment for all students. Our assistant principals are entrusted with the opportunity and the responsibility of guiding, directing, nurturing, mentoring, and imparting knowledge to our children while they're at school. Now, that's a lot of words to describe our assistant principals. I wanted to know the real story, so I asked their principals to send me a statement about each of them. And now I will share that with you. First up, from Cougar Elementary, we have Marta Craighill, and this is what Miss Tickle has to say. Miss Craighill is an amazing, positive, and dedicated assistant principal. Her passion and drive to ensure all are successful is palpable on a daily basis in our building. Our school culture thrives under her leadership, and she makes the best cookies and macaroni and cheese ever. That's a good little tidbit. I didn't know that about you. All right, next up from Manassas Park Elementary, Sabira Rayab. Mrs. Rayab has been a wonderful addition to our school this year and has quickly become an invaluable member of our MPES team. Her dedication to our students, teachers, and families is evident every single day. She is a strong communicator and collaborator who brings a positive attitude and a solutions-focused approach to all that she does. She makes it a priority to build meaningful relationships with everyone in our school community. Ms. Rayab is an outstanding leader, and we're lucky to have her at MPES. Do you make a good mac and cheese? All right, from Manassas Park Middle School, Kristen Marbury. Miss Marbury is the engine of the middle school. She is always present for students and teachers, willing to do whatever it takes to ensure that everyone is able to find success in school in all areas. We love Miss Marbury. And finally, from Manassas Park High School, we have Melissa Pitts and Trisha Williams. Ms. Pitts has been an asset to the school for many years. She is always out in the school working with students and staff. She is dedicated, involved, and responsive to the needs of our school. Ms. Williams has been such a great addition to the admin team at MPHS this year. She jumped right in to build strong relationships with the students and the staff. It feels like she's been here longer than just this year. So we want to thank all of our assistant principals and recognize you tonight. Come on up.
Yeah, come on.
All right, ready? 1, 2, 3, and one more time. Thank you so much. And this concludes our spotlight this evening.
Hey, as I move my way back, any comments from the board?
I just have a couple, so thank you, Nourishing Ninjas and the No Kid Hungry. I went on the No Kid Hungry, I was just wondering, is there going to be like a list of what kind of donations you want, specific items that they're looking for, specific types of foods, like if they just want pasta, spaghetti sauce, peanut butter, those types of things, so that...
I don't think we've gotten there on the No Kid Hungry yet.
Okay,
We literally
okay.
just received this grant, I think, last week.
Okay.
But if you look at that for the Nourishing Ninjas program, all
Okay.
those wish lists do have specific items on there, and they send those items directly to the school.
Okay, thank you. Those are two great programs, and I also want to say thank you to all the assistant principals. Everything that they said is absolutely true, absolutely true. Building the relationships and making that connection with every single student, I see it when I walk into each of the schools. So thank you very, very much.
I'm very thankful. I've always been very thankful. And I'm so glad. I mean, it's just like, it kind of shows, forgive me, Marta, how old we're getting here. I remember Marta and Desiree, we were like representing the SPED students and how much the kids just really loved them. And I also remember Miss Marbury coming in with Mr. V, to all of this and putting in the hard work. And Mrs. Pitts and Mr. Pitts and her sons who've been, through our schools. I had the pleasure of meeting Mrs. Rayab too. And, and it's truly the assistant principal to me is like the CXO in the ship, right? Is the person who, the captain's up here, but the CXO is the one that has to know everything and everybody. And you all do, Mrs. Williams, also, it's just a tremendous, you're a tremendous asset, and I'm really, really thankful for everything you do.
Mr. Alexander.
Carlos kind of hit everything for there. I was just going to add on, it's really the stuff that you guys do behind the scenes that I don't think people realize that is so amazing. I've run into Miss Marbury at Walmart. She's loading up the carts with stuff. Like, she had my daughter. The stuff you guys do behind the scenes that nobody notices is really incredible, and I thank you for that more than anything.
A couple things. One, the Nourishing Ninjas, it's an amazing program. I've been fortunate enough to send some donations in, but I wanted to acknowledge one person who's been involved with it for years and years and years, and that would be Margaret Park.
Yep.
As just as we have a staff person, well, Margaret works here too, but Margaret's been involved for years and years, and we'd be remiss if we didn't mention her and thank her for all the work that she's put in Nourishing Ninjas. I'm pleased to hear about the food grant as well. Food insecurity is a massive problem that I think if you aren't experiencing or if you don't see it, you take it for granted. So I know that at an actual food pantry, at time of need, will be a tremendous asset. And then as an educator, I know the value of a good assistant principal. As a SPED parent, I know the value of a good assistant principal. They do the dirty work, whether it's testing behavior or the glorious IEP meetings. I don't think any of you have had to, well, no, I think Melissa's had to be in one with me, or once or twice or a dozen times. But the work that APs do is limitless. It touches everyone, and we could not be more grateful for all of you. And it's so funny because so many of you I've known for years and years and years now. Every time I see Kristen, I look for Mr. Valetti, and he's not here. But truly, you guys are amazing for the school division and amazing for our students, and we could not be more grateful. So thank you so much. All right. And you are free to go if you wish. I mean, we're going to have a robust rest of the meeting. You're more than welcome to hang out, especially if you're into textbook adoption. But other than that, have a great night. All right. Mrs. Williams, public comments. Do we have anyone signed up?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay, seeing that nobody has signed up, we will move on to new business, the Manassas Park City Schools Literacy Resource Adoption. I told you it was coming.
It's coming. All right. Well, good evening, Madam Chair and members of the board. Thank you for having us here this evening as we will be sharing information regarding the K-5 Literacy Resource Adoption process and highlighting the committee's recommendation for purchase.
I want to thank Ms. Kaylee McCann, our Division Literacy Specialist, and the Adoption Committee for their thorough work on this endeavor and their careful consideration and reflection of the resources that were examined and discussed over the course of this school year. In just a few moments, Kaylee will walk you through the entire process. You will see that we had significant representation from all grade levels, to include also reading specialists, instructional technology coaches, special education teachers, ESOL educators, school counselors, and school administrators. It is with this collective input that we will share a recommendation for your consideration. We will ask for action on this recommendation at the May regular school board meeting. As with all initiatives, we must tie it back to our strategic plan and goals. I believe that this resource adoption can be tied to each of these 3 strategic goals. This timeline was the anchor to the committee's process, and I will now ask Ms. McCann to come forward to share with you the details of the timeline and of the resource adoption process and recommendation. Thank you.
I'm a little shorter. I got to lower that a little. Good evening. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to kind of walk you through our process and how we came to our outcome. So as you can see, we started this back in October with the formation of our committee and a creation of a rubric. In November, we finalized that rubric and we received vendor samples. December to February, we allowed those 3 months for the team to really dive into each of those resources so that they could thoroughly analyze them. In February, we had an elimination of 1 series and vendor presentations were scheduled. March, we had the scheduled vendor presentations. April, the committee selected a recommended series for purchase. Materials were made available for public comment. In May, the selected series presentations will be held at Cougar and Manassas Park Elementary, and the school board votes to approve the recommended series. In June, we will purchase the approved reading series and schedule professional learning for the 2022-2023 school year. As you can see, the formed committee represented members from each grade level as well as specialized departments, as Ms. Calso mentioned, including administrators, ITCs, reading specialists, STEM teachers, school counselors, special education, and ESOL. This helped to ensure we had feedback from not only homeroom teachers, but educators who support the curriculum in different content areas. The rubric had guiding questions to ensure there was a strong Virginia SOL alignment. Scaffolds and differentiation were in place to meet the needs of all learners. Authentic texts were included to provide real-life examples of language used in everyday situations. Cross-curricular content, such as science and social studies, were present, and there was adequate teacher support to help implement the series with fidelity. Members also evaluated assessment, technology, and social emotional learning components and their alignment with our strategic goals. The 3 series that were evaluated were Into Reading, a Houghton Mifflin Harcourt program, Wonders, McGraw-Hill, and Scholastic Literacy. For Houghton Mifflin Harcourt Into Reading, the positive feedback received from the committee included a strong writing component, print and digital resources for teachers were user-friendly, and there were multiple opportunities for text analysis. However, some members felt there were too many components which would make it difficult to implement with fidelity. The digital access for students was difficult to navigate, and the vocabulary was challenging. I'd like to share this comment from a member. This textbook seems great for on-level or bubble students, but fails to provide sufficient support for students far below level and English language newcomers, nor for advanced students. The writing component is wonderful. Students will love the engaging texts, which do contain diverse characters, but there are not enough diverse cultures included. Overall, I fear that adopting this textbook would run the risk of our instruction remaining too surface level and rote, without enough rich supports for all of our diverse learners. The most skilled teachers will not be held back by this textbook, but inexperienced teachers will likely be overwhelmed. It feels like a repeat where we've been before rather than moving into the future for what our students need. This feedback is a great representation of why the committee ultimately decided to eliminate this resource moving forward. We proceeded with vendor presentations from the remaining 2 series. On March 22nd, Scholastic Literacy presented to our committee. The positive feedback received from the committee included engaging, culturally relevant, authentic texts that students could connect with. Personalized learning is present in all aspects of the series. There is a strong connected writing instruction included with each unit. Meaningful assessments are embedded to check for understanding, and it is more student-driven to help students have choice and ownership of their learning. Members felt this series is a paradigm shift of where we have previously been with instruction, as it includes a writing and reading workshop model. This can be seen as both a strength and an area of growth. Scholastic is advanced for the lower grade levels and has fewer components. On March 28th, McGraw-Hill's Wonder presented to our committee. The positive feedback included easy-to-follow teacher and student materials. Teachers enjoyed the reading and writing companion and consumable textbook, which allows for students to take notes and highlight important information. Spiral review was included to ensure each standard had multiple opportunities for mastery, and there was a strong writing component. However, members stated that this series lacked differentiated support for our English language learners, special education students, and students reading below grade level. The online platform was difficult to navigate for students, and there would be more teacher prep time that would be needed due to the many components of the program. It would be difficult to fit in all of the included components in the allotted literacy block. While there was a recommendation time for each component from the vendor, it varied day to day, which would make consistency and routines difficult to achieve. On April 1st, the committee met to provide their final recommendation. As you can see, 19 members had recommended Scholastic Literacy for purchase, with only 3 of those members not in agreement. Each homeroom would receive enough resources for 25 students, and each grade level would have 1 additional set that would allow us to accommodate enrollment growth. Cougar Elementary would receive a K-3 leveled book room, which includes 44 titles at each reading level. Manassas Park Elementary would receive a K-6 library, which also includes 44 titles at each reading level, and would help support students reading below grade level. 15 additional teacher resources are included, so ESOL teachers, reading specialists, and special education teachers would have access to those materials. The total cost for the teacher and student resources is $532,205.77. An important component of implementing any new resource is professional development. The Getting Started sessions would be 2 full-day modules. The first day includes Foundations of Scholastic Literacy, using scholastic literacy resources while teaching reading, writing, and word study skills in a whole class setting, and how to utilize resources to assess and monitor student growth in whole class instruction. The second day would be broken up into 2 half-day sessions. Session 1, educators would explore the purpose of assessment components, how to administer each component, interpret assessment data, learn how to use data to form groups, and inform guided reading instruction. The second session would focus on understanding the components of effective guided reading instruction, using text complexity characteristics to plan a guided reading lesson, how to set up a classroom environment to support guided reading instruction, and develop a 20-day launch plan for guided reading. Follow-up sessions would include implementation of Literacy Pro, the Book Room Accelerator, and the online student resources to strengthen foundational literacy skills and word study skills, which are their Word and First programs. Instructional coaching is included to help support teachers plan for instruction. The model allows for an initial meeting, co-planning with a scholastic literacy coach, lesson modeling, and data analysis to identify instructional next steps. This would occur throughout the school year. Virtual check-ins would occur monthly from September to March to allow for teachers to share successes, ask questions, and discuss next steps. The leadership coaching provides opportunities for our administrators and division leaders to build site capacity by identifying success and gaps in data collection and look at observed trends in the quality of implementation. The total cost for professional learning is $46,978. The total cost for scholastic literacy would be $579,183.77, which is an overage of $36,783.77 from the budgeted amount. The total cost, including overage, would be paid for with unexpended funds from the fiscal year of 2022. Thank you.
All right, questions from the board?
I had a couple.
Yeah.
The one thing that actually got to me was the two that were not chosen. I mean, like a big weight was they're difficult to navigate. The user interface is not as friendly.
Correct.
So, it's just like, so was that one of the driving, because, it seems like in other areas, they seem to be stronger. I mean, every package is going to have strengths and weaknesses. Was that the glaring weakness in the two that were not selected?
I would say that was one of the weaknesses, but I would not say that was the glaring obvious reason.
Okay.
A lot of the committee members felt that the other two did not have as strong of the differentiated support
Right.
to meet the needs of our population.
And that brings me to my second question. I have three, and I'm
Okay.
sorry, guys.
That's okay.
What is that word, differentiated?
It's tailoring your instruction to meet the needs of your students.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Yes.
Okay, and the last one is kind of like, I don't know, is it the last one on the outcomes for scholastic literacy? It says less extensive versus, is it expensive or extensive?
Extensive.
Okay, so it
they
is
were referring.
extensive.
They were referring to the amount of components. It seems a little. It's more simple
Compact.
for them to be able to follow.
So,
Whereas
okay.
the other two programs, they had a lot of things that they wanted to include,
Right.
which would be really difficult to fit into our allotted literacy block time.
Because I kind of took that, like, I looked at it different, like extensive. So extensive is good. They're offering more, right? So, okay, I'm glad to see. Okay, so it was, so it's more of a compact thing that you can get your hands around.
Correct.
Okay,
And powerful in that.
Yes.
in that compactness. Okay, those were my three questions.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I had the same question about the less extensive, reading it as a negative, but it was a pro, so
Yes.
that clears that up. The only other question I had was, what's the expected life cycle of this curriculum? I mean, how long are we expecting it to last? I just because obviously, like with some of the other ones, when you mentioned like consumable materials, it scares me because it's like
Right.
those
That's-
books, once they're written in, they're done. So I was just kind of curious on these, how long are we expecting them
The
to?
last adoption was in 2011. Now, it was going to come up again during the pandemic,
Right.
but then the pandemic delayed it. So
Gotcha.
7 or 8 years. The thing with Scholastic, less consumable. The online component and platform tailors itself really well to our one-to-one with the devices and the ability to do the different workshops. Teachers will just have a lot of resources at their hands to do stations and to differentiate.
And with that price, that includes those consumables through the, I think, 7 years, I believe.
Right.
Okay, so
Okay,
it does.
that was
Okay,
going to be my
thank you.
question.
That's yeah.
Yeah, so we would get those at the end of the school year typically with like our last program. They reach out and they say, okay, how many of the workbooks do you need? And it's sent in every year. The same thing would happen with Scholastic with their reading and writing companion. And so every June we would just give them our numbers and they would send it to us, and that's included in that price.
Okay, thank you.
And that's for 7 years or 8 years?
I believe
I believe it's
7,
7.
but I can
check on
yeah.
that.
Okay.
Really quick, how long is the instructional block in the K-5 for your literacy program?
So at Cougar Elementary, it is 120 minutes for the literacy block, and at Manassas Park, it's 110.
Okay. Oh, so they're very comparable. Okay. The Literacy Pro component, I have a little familiarity with Scholastic. The Literacy Pro component, is that accessible for home for our students to be able to access books online?
Yes.
So, and they'll have the correct passwords and all of that. How and do you feel like it integrates well with Canvas? Is Canvas going to be a good supporting platform for the integration to make it seamless for the kids? Because I know that was talked about in the other items, the Mifflin and the other wonders. Yeah.
Yes, it should be, and I think one of the key components that Kaylee mentioned is that professional learning piece and ensuring that it's not just what happens in August, that it's continued throughout the year, and it's reinforced to everybody that we're moving forward with this, and this is what we'd like to do with it, so that it's implemented with fidelity across the grade levels, and integrating Canvas as much as we possibly can, as well as those other online resources that come with Scholastic.
As you look for, from the K-5 structure to the 6-8, does it articulate well to what they're doing in the 6-8, what they're using 6-8, or do they have a basal in the 6-8?
So I know they do a lot of literature circles, and
Okay.
it's
And writing
that reading.
workshop
It's the
and-
reading and
Okay.
writing workshop model. So I think it will lend itself really well to set them up for success as they move on to the secondary campus.
Okay. Yeah, I do have some familiarity with Scholastic, and it's a great resource as long as people are supported and well trained, and that seems to be a focus of what you've offered this evening. So I have.
I have,
I have one last
Oh,
one.
more questions. Okay.
I hadn't asked any yet.
Oh, you have.
Yeah, so say.
Oh, I know, usually I'm first.
I know. You're messing me up. Go ahead, please.
So, what do we have right now? What
That was my question.
We have journeys.
journeys, and who makes that?
If you hadn't asked me, I'd be able to spit it out. I believe it's
It's a
Houghton
rock
Mifflin.
It's what?
It's Houghton Mifflin Harcourt. It's the
Okay.
same as the Into Reading program that we
Okay, the
reviewed
entry,
as
okay.
well.
And then on slide 10,
Yes.
there's this chart, and it's got those that like Scholastic and those that like Wonders. So everybody agreed that nobody liked Into Reading. Is that correct?
It was a pretty much unanimous decision.
Okay.
We had no opposition whatsoever when we
Okay.
taled about eliminating that as a
Okay.
resource.
And we felt by eliminating one resource, then we could really focus on the other two and take our time and considering getting the vendors to come in and do their hour-long presentations with the committee.
What were some of the main reasons why that 13.6% really liked Wonders? What was the strength and why they didn't choose Scholastic?
So it's only 3, and they are representations of our lower level. They felt all programs are a challenge to meet some of those students that are first day kindergartners that might not have had access to school beforehand. So one of the things that we are going to work with Scholastic on is making sure that we have some strong resources for the K and 1 teachers who requested to really have some extra support for implementation.
Okay, so they felt that Wonders provided that more so than Scholastic had the extra whatever for implementation, extra support for implementation.
Easier for kindergartners, the extra implementation
Okay.
on it.
Okay.
But that will be a question that I'll be asking of Scholastic is how can we ensure that our kindergartners are supported, or what supports what our teachers need in that professional learning?
It's just interesting that the kindergartners felt that
It is.
it didn't have
That's why
it didn't have the
we
extra support, but the other grades felt enough
Right.
support.
It wasn't necessarily the extra support component. It just starts out a little higher than where their students are coming in. So looking at the pacing guide and how this will fit in next year, it's just accommodating and moving some things around to really build in some of those extra supports before they jump into the program.
And that's been true of a lot of things beyond this as a result of the pandemic.
That's all I have.
She asked both of my questions.
Yeah.
So thank you. Good
No, I-
questions.
Thank
questions. Well, it is a great resource, and it sounds like there's wonderful supports available. So we look forward to seeing it on our next agenda.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. All right, upcoming meetings. The next school board work session is Monday, 6:59 here in the school board meeting room. We also Monday, May 16th, 6:59 p.m. Regular school board meeting here in the school board meeting room. I also want to mention that we do have our retreat. It's being advertised downstairs this Saturday, and it's okay. 9 to 11. So that's going on as well.
It's 9 to 11?
9 to 11.
Okay.
9 to 11. You can all follow me over to Manassas for Manassas Reads. All right, board member comments.
I don't know if we had a meeting where I could have mentioned this, but I wanted to say thank you for Jessica Roach for reaching out. In late March, I got to read to 3 pre-K classes in the beginning of April. It was fabulous. We connected. I must have the pre-K level of thinking because I had a great time and they were great and we got to share stories and I had a fabulous time. So I wanted to say thank you for Jessica for arranging that.
Well, I guess next week is Teacher Appreciation Week. So I would encourage parents the 2 or 3 that might be looking at us right now, that our teachers are our greatest resource. This week has been Assistant Principal Appreciation, and we owe them a debt of gratitude. And I hope that next week, we administrators and everybody get together to basically give them that extra little thank you.
Go see Shrek at the high school.
Oh, when is that?
Starts on Thursday.
Thursday, 7 o'clock.
Thursday, 7 p.m.
We have an email.
Thursday,
No,
Friday.
Yeah,
I did see
Sundays
the
at
email,
3.
but
I'm going
for some
Thursday.
reason I'm
I think
getting old.
Yeah.
No, I get
My
it.
son's friend is playing in it, and I'm like, you gotta go. It's gonna be great.
Very excited.
Yeah, so administrator appreciation, teacher appreciation for those 5 to 7 people that are watching. I'm going to go a little more optimistic. Now would be a great time to send an encouraging and supportive email to your teacher or administrator. It gets wacky and wild at the end, and they could use all the appreciation and support you can give them. Also, I am very much looking forward to the month of May and all of the various senior activities. Hardly feels real for those of us that have seniors. Are we not talking about it?
No, we can talk about it. I was actually wondering what activities there were. That was something Mrs. Pitts and I were discussing, what were all the activities, because I'm new to this, so I don't.
Well, so am I.
Yeah.
So am I.
Yeah.
And they're only somewhat some of the messages get home, but no, it's an extremely exciting time. So please support your students and support your teachers. They've got testing coming up. They have end of the year stuff, and they could use the support and encouragement of their entire community.
They have middle school SOLs. Are those coming up?
Oh yeah,
Yes.
all the SOLs are coming up.
Yeah, AP tests, SOLs are coming up. I mean, May is just
Yeah.
jam-packed.
Yep. So on that note, we appreciate everything everyone does in this division. So on that note, I will go ahead and call us adjourned.
Have a good night.